Sophia is the HR assistant in WPS. She asked employees to fill personal information in a blank table, but received a messy table. Let's take some time to check what is going wrong. First of all, the date and telephone number are incorrectly formatted, which is either too long or too short. Repeated information can be found, and someone even mistook the age as 1,000 years old. The validation function in WPS can validate the entered contents, so users cannot enter unqualified content, thus ensuring the standardization and unity of the data entered from the source. Take this employee information sheet as an example. Let's divide and conquer the problems. How to restrict the entered content. Firstly, we need to standardize the employee's age. The age range can be limited to 18 to 55 years old. Specifically, we select the Age column, click the Data tab, and click Data Validation to activate the dialog box. At Validation Criteria, you can set rules to whole number, decimal, list, date, time, and text length. If you select any value, then any entered content is available to enter. If Custom is selected, you can customize the entered conditions, which are more flexible and powerful. In this case, we select whole number and select between at data, entering 18 at minimum and 55 at maximum. Finally, click OK. Now, let's see what will happen after setting. Entering 1000 will bring an error input message. Once we follow the rule and enter 22, the error message will no longer appear. If you want to modify or clear the conditions we set, you can reselect the area and click Validation to check Apply these changes to all other cells with the same settings. By doing so, we can select the cells with the settings. Then, you can change the validation criteria or click Clear All to eliminate the rules. Finally, click OK. How to validate dates format. Similar operations can be applied to the data such as the enrollment date. Select the Date column and then click Validation. We can choose Date at the drop-down menu. Suppose these staff are all employed after 2020, and then we should click greater than at data, enter 2020/01/01 at start date. Don't forget to format the dates. Finally, click OK. Let's check the effect. Enter a date in the wrong format, and then an error input message will occur, requiring you to enter the preset formats. The remedy afterward is far outweighed by utilizing the validation function to set dates format in advance and once for all. How to restrict the text length. Then, we will move to the phone numbers, which is an error-prone place. Thus, we need to limit the length of phone numbers. Select the phone number column, click Data Validation, and select Text Length from the drop-down list. In this case, select Equal to at Data, enter 10 at Value, and click OK. In this way, the length of the phone number is limited, and whether there is a missing number or an extra number, it will prompt an error alert. How to prevent duplicate values. The value of an employee number is unique because every employee in the whole company has an exclusive number. So if the employee number is repeated, it means that there may be an error. How can we prevent the duplicate values? Select the employee number column, click Data Validation, and select Custom, and enter the following formula in the text box. Equals countif b:(b, b3 equals 1. Countif is a statistical function, and the first half of the formula tells how many data are the same as B3 cell in column B. Because we set the premise that data must be unique, that is, only the data in B3 is allowed in column B, that's why we enter equals 1 in the second half. Then click OK. Now let's check the effect. Let's enter data exactly the same as in cell B3, and then an error alert will pop up. If we enter another number that cannot be found in the previous input record, it can display properly. If an employee is entering an information sheet, but the rules are unknown, it's hard to guarantee accuracy. For HR Sophia, setting restrictions is not enough. She needs to set related input messages to display prompts. So how can she do that? Select the phone numbers column and click Validation. Click the Input Message tab, and then you can enter the message you want to display. In this case, we enter Error Alert at title and phone numbers consist of 10 digits. Then click OK. By doing so, the input message will appear when we want to enter content in the selected cell. This is an essential stage to set data validation because it can avoid mistakes when entering data. How to set Error Alert. If you don't want the employee to be prompted when selecting a cell, we can also set an error alert so that the corresponding alert will pop up only when the wrong content is entered. Select the phone number column, then click Validation. Click Error Alert, where we can set what to prompt at Title and Error Message. Let's input phone numbers consist of 10 digits here. The Style drop-down list on the left contains 3 options: Stop, Warning, and Information. What are their differences? Now we have applied different styles for these 3 cells, and you can see the differences intuitively. If we set Stop, then an error alert will pop up when we enter invalid data. At this time, you can't click Other cells. You have to modify the invalid content before quitting the editing process. If Warning is selected, you will be prompted that the entered data is invalid. You can still enter invalid data by pressing the Enter key again. If Information is entered, the invalid information will still activate an error message, but you are also allowed to enter the content. How to circle invalid data. It's too late for HR to study the verification function, and she has collected more than half of the needed data. Now, she has to check them one by one with the naked eye. Can you help her solve the problem? Why not introduce the Circle Invalid Data function to her? This powerful assistant can verify and identify the existing data in this sheet. We have just set different restrictions for this employee information table. Now select the table area, click the drop-down list of Data Validation, and click Circle Invalid Data. At this time, the contents that do not meet the validation conditions will be circled so that the contents can be modified correctly. Do you remember that we have mentioned the drop-down menu function in How to Input Data into a Table Efficiently? Click the Insert drop-down button in the Date tab, and then you can directly add text to it. In fact, you can also make a drop-down menu in Data Validation and even make related multi-level menus. Select the Department column, click Validation in the Data tab, and select List at Allow. If you just want to set a small number of lists, you can enter the content at Source directly. Don't forget to add a comma between each choice. Click OK to check the effect. Each click on cells will trigger the drop-down list that contains Yes and No. Now we go back to the Data Validation dialog box to enter the correct department information. Check Apply these changes to all other cells with the same settings. Then the cells with the rule will be selected. Then select the department classification that we prepared in advance at Source. Finally, click OK, and congratulations on your finished drop-down list. How to make a multi-level drop-down menu. It's a little more complicated. First, we need to clear the rules. First, we should prepare a list of personnel in all departments and arrange them horizontally according to their departments. Select the data area, click Formulas, and Create, where you can check top row and click OK. By doing so, we have named the personnel of different departments, and the contents from the first row are taken for reference. For example, cell area I2 to I9 is named Finance, and cell area J2 to J9 is named HR. Name Manager will tell us the names we set for selected columns. Step 2. Select the Name column, click Validation, and select List and enter equals indirect left bracket at the source. Then select the first cell below the department field. Delete the second $sign and enter the remaining half bracket. These may be summarized in 2 main points. The first is the basic usage of the indirect function, which is mainly used for indirect reference. Since the choices of the level 2 list follow level 1, we need to reference the options of level 1. The second point is that after referencing the corresponding cells, we deleted the $sign in the middle and changed the absolute reference to the cell into a mixed reference. It is common that you are still confused about the difference between them. More details will be explained in a later chapter about function. Don't forget about what we mentioned in this tutorial. Finally, click OK. At this time, when we select any department, such as the financial department, the drop-down list will tell the employees in the finance department. When we choose HR, the employees in the human resources department will show up. Now let's summarize and review what we've learned in this lesson. We have learned how to use the validation function to restrict the entered content. To achieve this, we need to set different rules to restrict, such as the date format, text length, value range, and repeated value. Setting error alert and circling invalid data are also available. We also learned the method to create the drop-down menu and multi-level menus with the indirect function. You won't have to worry about tiresome data collection once you've learned these functions. In the next lesson, we'll learn how to process data in WPS Spreadsheet. Stay tuned.